Hello, and welcome to Your Sparkly Brand. We're here to inspire and empower entrepreneurs just like you. This podcast is all about delivering no fluff, high value content that helps you to grow your business. It doesn't matter if you have no budget and you're still DIYing everything on your own. We're giving you the tips, tools, and strategies that you need to build your sparkly empire. I'm Megan Gersh, your resident brand designer and web designer, and I'm here with my co-host, the copywriting queen, Lauren Tassi. Hey, Lauren, how are you?
Hi, Megan. I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
What was your sparkly moment this week?
So I just got back from Denver. And one of the things that we did while we were there was we went to this art immersive installation called Meow Wolf. It's not their original location. This is actually one of their newer locations, but I was just so blown away and so inspired by how incredible it was. So basically, if you don't know what it is, it's basically like, I want to say it's like a warehouse that they have like transformed into all of these different worlds. There are character actors that you can interact with. There's just like different like cubby holes that you can travel through and like all of these different rooms that you can explore. And it was so inspiring and so like creatively kind of energizing for me. And so, yeah, that was my sparkly moment this week. I hope that maybe we can all, like our friend group can all go to one soon because it was just really magical.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've never been. I've obviously heard amazing things about everything they do. So yeah, I want to check that out for sure.
Yeah, for sure. What was your sparkly moment?
So I had a client reach out to me from more than 2 years ago, literally no contact whatsoever, forgot about them. I did full service marketing agency and I was doing like white label service for them for like this cash back app that then got acquired by Capital One. So it's like defunct. The blog is gone, but I screenshotted some of the articles. So I still have them like if somebody wants to see them. But she reached out and she was like, haven't talked to her in 2 years. She's like, I have a new client. Your name came to mind immediately because we need somebody who can write something that's like fun and relatable and really get this great tone of voice, which is exactly what I did, the last time we'd worked together. I was just like, wow, I came to mind immediately. Are you kidding me? I haven't thought about you in 2 years,
Well, hopefully they don't listen to this podcast.
No, hopefully not. Sorry, Cheyenne.
That's awesome.
All right. Today we are talking about my favorite sparkly tool, which is Dubsado, which I feel like I've mentioned probably at least every other episode since I started using it at the beginning of the year. And the wild thing that also has happened with the timing of this episode is that Meg won a year-long subscription to Dubsado within the past week. Can you please explain? Tell me what happened.
So basically, I mentioned this on one of the last few episodes, but I went to this retreat called the Success Society Retreat. Dubsado was essentially a sponsor for the retreat. And so they had like, I think we got some small merch from them and like our gift bags and stuff like that. And then as a surprise at the end of the retreat, I guess they wanted to gift a whole year of Dubsado to one of the retreat attendees. And so, yeah, I happened to win. So I'm pretty pumped about today's episode because I truthfully don't know much about it. And so I'm excited to hear your perspective and what your experience has been.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, clearly I am pro-Dubsado. If you don't even want to listen to this episode and you just want to go check it out, I do have an affiliate link. I don't even make money. It's like a $30 credit or something for everybody who signs up. I don't even really care if you use my link, but it's in the show notes there if you want to use it. If not, just check it out. I'm going to give you all the reasons why I recommend it for anybody who's in a service provider type of business. So let's jump in. Dubsado, what is it? It's a CRM, which is a customer relationship management tool. It does all the things I used to spend all this time emailing back and forth, attaching documents, all of this sort of thing that was really messy and really made me feel like my business was like duct taped together. And so much of that is just now seamless and all in one place on Dubsado. One of the reasons I like it a lot, and I think why it stood out to me versus some of their competitors, is it was created by a photographer. So there's a visual element and a customization element that the other ones don't have that allow you to add your own branding in. It just looks good and you can make it look how you want. And I think having the founder or the co-founder come from that visual background is important to me. Even though my business isn't that visual, it's important to me. And the other thing is it's highly customizable, right? Like every single form you create, every single thing has all these different ways you can do it. You can even add custom code if that's your thing. And the other thing is that it totally changed the way I think about my business. It's become like, how can I use Dubsado to make this part of my business better? And I don't think you have to use Dubsado for that. I think any sort of tool can change the way you think when you think about how can I automate it? How can I make this faster for me and better for my client?
So can you tell me a little bit about like what is actually included in the platform? Like what can you actually do with Dubsado?
Absolutely. And those were the next points on the list. So thank you. Okay. So here's sort of, this is kind of not even in order, but this is how I sort of started incorporating it into my business. And the first one is lead capture. I have a form on my website and people go in and they fill out, their name, their website, what they're looking for, that kind of thing. It automatically goes into Dubsado, creates a project, and then you can set this up however you want, right? I have it set up where I want them to put their information in first and then schedule a call. Some people might want the call scheduled and then the information. I like getting information first because I also have my prices on there and I don't want anybody to schedule a call until they see bottom line what my prices are. I've done it the other way and it didn't work as well for me. And I'd get on a call with people who would just be like, what? So I like that part of it. It emails them a scheduler. They schedule it automatically. It has completely replaced Calendly for me. I don't even use Calendly anymore because it's all built in there. I think Calendly is still a great tool and it's definitely more robust, but for my business, I just need it attached to projects that my clients are already set up for. So it also, on top of being lead capture, you have all your forms, right? They call them forms, but it's questionnaires, it's contracts, it's proposals, it's invoices all in one place. And the beauty of it is, so my funnel is somebody books a call through my website, we get on the call, and then I send them a proposal. It's literally one click from accepting the proposal to signing the contract to paying the invoice. Where in my business before, that was like so messy. I would send a proposal through an email and then they'd go like, okay, let's do it. And then I'd be like, great. But then I'd have to scramble to put together a contract. And then I'd send the contract and they'd have to DocuSign it or something. And then they'd send it back to me. And then I'd send them an invoice through FreshBooks or whatever. And it was just like the amount of hours that were just in that 3-step process alone I wasted are crazy. It was messy. It didn't look good. So that's my favorite part of it. That's what I like. Those are the two things I set up immediately. And when I set it up, I hired a VA. I hired somebody who specialized in Dubsado. It wasn't even that expensive. I'm glad I did it. I hired the VA because I wanted to start at the first of the year. So my accounting was all clean. I could just get rid of the other system. But in retrospect, I had to go back and learn everything that she did because I wanted to understand it. So I recommend doing that if you're caught on time and you just want to get going because it really helps. And there's things she set up that I have never touched. But ultimately, being able to use it as a really great tool for your business, you have to learn that stuff that the VA did. Oh, and the other thing it does is it has a client portal, right? So I don't want to talk about workflows quite yet because this is like advanced level Dubsado, but there's one place where a client can access all their invoices, all their contracts, even just emails. As long as they've gone through Dubsado system, they can go find some old email that they responded to. So like having that, I like being able to send that to a client going, if you ever need this, here's where it is.
Awesome. So one question that's kind of coming to mind, I know that you brought up FreshBooks and that's currently what I'm still using. So like the main differences that I'm hearing from you are basically there's like a lot more automation that happens from client signing the contract to invoicing to payment and also on the side of like when you're like kind of prospecting and booking calls. Is that correct?
Absolutely. All of that stuff is it's just automatic now. I don't do anything. I see the Stripe notification or somebody booked a call, somebody filled out your form, or just emails that show up and it ends up in my calendar. It ends up wherever it needs to go.
So I have a question there. So I know that you have kind of like an application form in place first before you allow somebody to book a call with you. Is there a way to like bring in their application and for you to review it before that option is even presented to that prospect?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's part of the whole customizable thing is you can have the lead capture just go to your email and instead of them booking a call, it could then be thanks, we'll review your application or something like that. That's what is great is it's really set up for any type of business. And if you're in a type of business where maybe not like you and me, where we do sort of higher ticket services, maybe you're doing something where you only sell like $100, consults or something where you have more volume than that. You can even have they call it a public proposal, but it's basically a lead capture form that you then pay for something at the end of it. So you can have sort of automation in that way too, where you don't need to be involved before a sale is made.
Awesome. I know you've kind of touched on this already, but can you tell me about how you can use Dubsado to kind of manage your business?
Yeah. So this is where I want to start talking about workflows, which are, sort of advanced level Dubsado. But once you kind of understand, if you start to think like, oh, could I do that? And then you figure out, yes, I could, send a reminder for this email and then watch it to follow this form. That's how my brain has changed the way I think about my business. And so like one of my workflows is, we've already talked about it, the new lead to a discovery call workflow, right? Where that automatically sets it up. They fill out the form. The way it's set up, they're not able to book the call immediately on the website, but they get an email immediately that has the link to the scheduler. So I'm fine with that. That doesn't bother me. That also like has automatic reminders built in. I think they get a 24-hour reminder and then a 3-hour reminder. You can set all that up however you want to. I don't like to send too many reminders, but that's all in there. You can also Also, one of my favorite things is automating proposal follow-ups, which was something I was just so bad at, or just I would always be like, oh, did 3 days go by? Should I do that? Like it just wasn't automatic and it wasn't something I was great at doing. And I felt sometimes it made me feel uncomfortable. And now it's just, I don't even think about it. It just happens. Like 3 days after I send a proposal, if I don't hear anything, there's a follow-up. Hey, do you have any questions? 7 days later, oh, just, this expires in a week. And then like a day before it expires, what do you need? Blah, blah, blah. And then I also have in my workflow, if I send a proposal and they have never responded to me, which doesn't happen often, but it used to happen to me more. So that's kind of why I have this built in. It's like 6 weeks later, oh, hey, do you still need help with this? Just sort of like not letting the leads fall through the cracks, which I think is so valuable for a business. I talked about, how the proposal, the contract, and the invoice are like 3 steps now. It can happen. Someone could do that, complete it in 30 seconds if they wanted to. I have an onboarding workflow now, which is where as soon as somebody pays an invoice, I do it manually because I have different onboarding situations depending on the project. Not everybody gets like an hour-long strategy call with me, but I have like my new client questionnaire. I have like a welcome email that has information like, here's how you can contact me. Oh, and I have a referral program. So if you refer somebody, you get $100 or whatever it is, all that sort of thing. All those things that I always wanted to tell people, never really had a place to put it, now ends up in this welcome email. And it's also like, it's, welcome to the family is what I said. It's my voice, my sort of giving people, we talked about this, it's the last episode or the episode before, like once somebody buys something for you, giving them some sort of satisfaction, it's a good touch point to give them to delight your customer. And then I just started an offboarding sequence, which is, again, I remind them about the referrals. This is where I ask for testimonials and you can automate that. It goes to a questionnaire. And if they don't fill it out, you can send reminders. Like it's all just automated. It's click it and forget it. You can also set it to like automatically check in after a certain date. So like if I know their launch ends October 30th, I can set up a thing to say, hey, check on October 31st and see how it went. And it's just it's out of my brain and I don't have to worry about all these things that were always swimming around in there.
Oof, that sounds like a lot to set up and it sounds very, very powerful. But I mean, there certainly has to be a certain level of time that you dedicate to setting all of those workflows up.
It is. Dubsado is really great. They have a lot of education in their thing. Like they have whole Kajabi courses about how to set this stuff up. And what they're really smart about is they're like, figure out what you're going to do before you try and set it up because they have you map it out. They tell you to like write all the emails and stuff. As a writer, I don't need to do that. I can just kind of whip them off. But somebody who maybe does want to draft their emails a little better might want to like fill out all the content ahead of time. And again, you don't start with like an offboarding sequence, right? That's like the last thing you need. Anybody who is starting, I would say that like the new lead to discovery call situation is good because that's how you get the projects in there. That's how it's all set up.
Awesome. I love it. So let's talk about some of the downsides. Have you noticed anything? Like, are there features on the platform that you kind of want, but you haven't seen or you haven't like kind of tapped into yet?
Yeah, there's definitely a few downsides. One of the biggest ones that we've already touched on is that there's a lot to learn, right? It takes a while to get the hang of it. I think a lot of people kind of maybe bail before they get the hang of it if they're not willing to either have the VA set it up for them. Again, I think I paid somebody like $200 to get it all set up and running. It was at the time is worth it for me because it's possible I would have been like, this is too hard. I'm going back to FreshBooks, So that's one of the ways to do with that. The other way is that there are just tons of resources beyond what they provide. There's a Facebook group where people are always answering questions and you can one of the things I really love about the Facebook group is other people talk through their workflows and you can kind of steal or be like, oh, that kind of thing could work for my business. Oh, I should add a testimonial to my offboarding workflow, that kind of thing. And there are a couple things it doesn't do that I wish it did. The biggest one is expense tracking and bookkeeping. So FreshBooks does that. I quit FreshBooks. What I'm using this year, but as soon as the year changes, I'm going to do something else, is I'm using this program called Wave Apps, which I used at the very beginning, which is free. And I just use it for expenses, for like sales and expenses. So I then have a profit and loss statement to give to my accountant next year. But the other option is QuickBooks, which is what I'm going to move to. And I think there's some natural built-in QuickBooks integration. If not, a lot of things can be used through Zapier. I don't use Zapier. I know you do. So it might be even easier for you to figure it all out. But there's a lot of things where it's like, if it doesn't quite work, you can set up a Zapier for it. So that's like my biggest thing I wish they did. Also, they're not processing the payment. So what you're paying to use Dubsado does not include the payment processing fees. So you're going to use Stripe or PayPal or one of those options instead. That doesn't bother me. That's just built into business for me as like credit card processing fees. That's part of the deal. It also doesn't do email marketing. So you still need you need ConvertKit. I think you use Flowdesk or MailChimp or whatever it is. One-to-one emails with clients about delivering documents, that kind of thing. Perfect for that. But it doesn't do sort of list emailing, which it would be great if it did that. I feel like it would be everything you needed if it had those two little pieces to it.
So I had a question. I recently recently was working with a contractor who like they prompted me through their Dubsado to sign up for a call. And one of the things that I noticed on the person that's booking the call side was that it didn't automatically add the event to my calendar. I don't know if that's something that maybe they didn't set up on their end, or like maybe it's something I didn't do correctly, but like I wanted to ask about that. Like, is that something that is possible to like automatically sync with Google Calendar, or like have that functionality to add it to your calendar? Because I feel like that's like fairly basic, and that's kind of what I lean on Calendly for, as well as Stan. And so that would be a major thing for me if I were to kind of switch over.
Yeah. So me as the user, it's my Dubsado account, absolutely it connects with my Google Calendar. It's just like Calendly, you set buffers, right? Like give me an hour in between meetings. I can block out days in Google Calendar and it automatically transfers to days I'm not available for calls on Dubsado. So as the account owner, yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure. The thing that you mentioned, and now actually I want to test it, is if it automatically adds it to the client's accounts, because that would be a thing I would be missing. Although I will say that's using Dubsado and not using Calendly for discovery calls, people don't no-show as much because I didn't have reminders set up on Calendly. And now I have, it might be an hour before I have the reminder. I've never had a no-show because of it. So it's working for me so far, but I'm going to test that and see if it shows up in the client's calendar.
Good to know. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the benefits of using Dubsado for your business. I mean, obviously we've covered quite a few of them already, but if you have other ones, I'd love to hear them.
Yeah. So the visual cohesiveness for me is a big one. And I'm not even in like a visual market, right? But just to me, that matters. And I think it helps me stand out as a copywriter, because some copywriters, again, that's not what we do, but I just think it attracts the right clients. It attracts people that matters to. So it's like having your logo on everything. It's having, you can customize your button colors if you want to. It's those little things that like people like us care about, but some people wouldn't care about. And there's all sorts of places you can incorporate your branding and then standardize it, right? You can create you can create like a master proposal. What I have is like a master proposal that has basically every offering I have on it. It has my photos, it has all of that. And then I just remove things from it and then send it to a client, because that's easier than building one from scratch. What else? It creates that professional experience for your clients. And, nobody ever like complained about my process before, but the longer I've been in business and like the more I think I work with service providers too, is I see the difference, right? To have somebody just sort of send you a PDF that you then have to DocuSign or, use the thing on the Mac that does it. It's just not as seamless. How quickly can we get through this so I can move on with my day? So I'm proud of that as a business owner, to have my clients go through an experience like that feels, 5-star. And it keeps me organized, right? The way between Asana, Dubsado, and then I have my own silly old little Google spreadsheet that just sort of, I keep like red, green. I think I've talked about it before, red, green, yellow as to like how much attention something needs. That's like really all I need to not feel like anything falls through the cracks, to always know when deadlines are coming up, when things need to get paid. It's just those 3 tools, which I feel like the Google spreadsheet doesn't even count as a tool. Those 2 things keep my business running. And then the other thing about Dubsado is like their customer support is incredible. They have a chat feature, which like, I don't know about you, but I never chat with things because half the time you get like a robot and then you're just like, this would have been faster if I'd emailed or called or whatever. But their chat is like, they'll be like, oh, we'll have a real person respond to you in 20 minutes, which I'm like, great. That's exactly what I want. And it's like, I think they're all, I mean, I don't know for sure that they're all US based, but they're all just like helpful and like know what you need help with immediately. And it's not like this sort of script that you go through with support sometimes where you're just like, no, you're not listening to me as a human. And then they're always asking for how they can improve. What features do you need? And that's a really great thing, is they do just, if you can just sort of chat with them, be like, hey, it would be great if this happened, or this weird thing happens on my end, and they'll walk you through it and they'll really be there for you. And I talked about the Facebook group, which is great too, just to sort of peek into other people's business processes.
Yeah, and we can drop the link to the Facebook group in the show notes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't have to be a paid member or anything to check that out.
Okay, so this all sounds amazing. So if somebody's listening to this, how do they get started?
Okay, so they do a free trial, and it's my favorite thing about the free trial is there's no time limit, right? And you get to add 3 clients for free. So your first client is probably going to be a fake client who's you at another email address, right? Because you want to test things, you want to make sure it looks good before you use it. But then you can have like 2 actual paying clients, because they're not the payment processor, Stripe or PayPal or whatever it is. You can actually use it with real paying clients before you're even paying a fee. So I really appreciated that. I just did a trial for a service and I canceled it because it was too hard to figure out. And they only like a 5-day free trial. And I was like, no, I'm not paying you $100 a month. I have no idea how this works. So I really appreciate that there's no time limit on that. And then I just want to say, like, for me, the price is like way less than I would have paid. So they have like a 2 layers or 2 levels. There's like a starter and like more than starter. And it's like $200 or $400 a year to have all of this done for you. So I think it's a great deal. If you're just getting started, it can feel like a lot, but I compared it with FreshBooks and it was like the same in terms of pricing. And I was like, oh, I get all this except for that expense tracking. Come on, Dubsado. So yeah. So in my opinion, I think it's like a steal, but I know not everybody has, $200 or $400 a year to spend on that. So there's free options. Like I said, Wave apps. It's a little messy, but it's totally free. If you're interested, I have a link in the show notes. We'll put the link to sign up for Dubsado. If you use my link, I think you get 20% off your first month or year. And we'll put the link to the Facebook if you want to check it out a little non-committally too.
So I have one last question for you
Yeah.
before we wrap up here. How much time do you think that Dubsado has saved you, let's say per week?
A week. Ooh, definitely like, I would say 3 to 5 hours a week.
Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
that's significant.
Yeah. You think about like ClickUp. I don't know if they still have that ad campaign, but they had that ad campaign where it was like save 1 full day a week, especially because I'm only like just building my agency. And so like my time hasn't until recently been spent with contractors, but it really was just all working in my business. So it was like the time I invested to learn how Dubsado worked has definitely paid me back now that I don't like so much of my process is just plug and play.
Yeah, I think that it's really, really easy for business owners to forget that like you either pay with time or dollars. And like a lot of the time, like when we're setting up these systems, like, the investment is upfront, but like in the dividends that you reap kind of on the back end of that is just like you get your time back. You have like 3 to 5 more hours in the week that you could be spending on like building your business or hanging out with your family or doing whatever you want because like you've gotten that time back now. So it's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is our episode. So if you feel inclined, go check out Dubsado if you've been looking for a new CRM system. Thank you so much for listening. And until next time, stay sparkly.